Hello everyone, welcome to another weekly outlook video. As usual, we're going to start with the dollar index, and I want us to start with the monthly time frame. You can see we have 9 days left before we close this monthly candle. So far, as long as dollar is bullish, our draw of liquidity, you can see here we have a monthly fair value gap, and you also have this buy side liquidity here. So this right here is our long-term draw of liquidity for as long as dollar is bullish. Before we proceed, if you want to know how I trade and how I'm able to do all this analysis that I do every single week, you can join my 6 weeks SMC ICT Accelerator program that I normally hold every single month. And it's really interactive. You're going to have live online classes. Every session is recorded just in case you miss. PDF notes will be provided for you. And it's 4 weeks of learning, 2 weeks of really looking at live market analysis and looking at the live market. So we are not only doing theory, we also get to the real market and do analysis using the current price action. So these are reviews of students who have gone through this program, and most of them have really appreciated it and have seen a great shift in their trading. So if you're interested, I'll put a link in the description box below, and I'll also pin it in the comment section. So let's look at the weekly time frame. If you look at the weekly time frame, you can see clearly so far the weekly has made a new high. Yeah. So we've made a new high here, and so far we can see the weekly time frame is in a premium. If you take your fib to measure from this low to this high, you can see. So anytime price has made a new high, okay, whether we are doing a church or we are doing a break of structure, any time frame you look at, as long as price has made a higher high, the next thing you anticipate is a retracement, because at this point this market is at a real premium. So at this point, if you're going to have that retracement, I honestly want to see price get to this weekly fair value gap right here. You can see we have a weekly fair value gap here, and we also have an inversion fair value gap here. So we can say we have a balanced price range here. So I honestly want to see price get here before now we can continue with the bullish momentum if dollar is bullish. And of course, our draw of liquidity is this high here, which is again where we have the monthly fair value gap. So let's look at the daily time frame. Of course, on the daily last week we were really bullish. We wanted to see price use this fair value gap to push price higher, but you can clearly see so far price has inverted all this. We've even inverted, yes, price has inverted this fair value gap, and this is what we have so far. Okay, because I want to see price get here, so of course it will be nice if price actually will come sweep these lows, tag this balanced price range, and then we get that bullish momentum. So this for me will this is when I'll consider high probability buys once price gets here. So let's look at USDCHF. So USDCHF and the dollar index are positively correlated. So of course, so far dollar index, you can clearly see we've made a new high and prices at a real premium compared to USDCHF. You can see USDCHF price has not even taken this high here. Okay, so far this is what we have. So as much as I'm anticipating a retracement of dollar to the weekly fair value gap before we get the bullish momentum, for USDCHF, honestly, we're still inside here. Price has not even inverted this fair value gap here. So we're just likely to just have a slight retracement as you're having that retracement for dollar index before we continue with the bullish momentum. So if you look at the daily time frame, you can clearly see this is what we have. So we have this daily fair value gap here. So as you're having that retracement for dollar, USDCHF, either price can use this or we can have still a deeper retracement. You can see here we have an order block right here. Have an order block here before we see that bullish momentum. But the point is we want to see that retracement. For what I'm watching is really dollar. Once dollar gets to that weekly balanced price range, which also is in line with some daily key levels there, from that point that's when I'll expect or anticipate now a bullish momentum for USDCHF and dollar index. So let's look at EURUSD. So EURUSD and dollar index are negatively correlated. If we want to see a bullish dollar index, then EURUSD, we want to see a bearish EURUSD. So now I want us to look at the 3 months time frame. You can clearly see we also have 9 days left before this 3 months candle closes. Okay, so far you can clearly see we've had a break of structure. So EURUSD, we made this high, got a retracement, and then price made a new high, higher high. And I've told you guys, anytime price we have a new high, break of structure, whichever time frame you're looking at that point anticipate a retracement. And in this case, if you're going to have a retracement, if you take our fib from this low to this high here, you can see 50% of the range is right here. And you can see here we have a 3-month fair value gap, which is also in line with a 3-month order block. And you can see the order block is literally at 50% of this range. So now if you're going to see more bullish momentum for EURUSD come in the course of the year, we want to first of all see price come tag these we have that complete retracement, tag this 3 months fair value gap. It would be nice actually if we go even tag the order block, so we get to the 50% of the range before we see a bullish EURUSD. But that of course will happen in the course of the year. But as of now, we are looking at as a draw of liquidity is what is this 3 months fair value gap right here. So let's look at the weekly time frame. If you look at the weekly time frame again, you can see after we had this push higher and we've had this bearish momentum, and you can see so far we can call this market structure shift. So price has made a new low, and I've told you anytime that happens, any time frame you're watching, anticipate a retracement. So in this case, weekly time frame, what is going on at this point? This bullish momentum for weekly, I'm just looking at it as a retracement. So we can see we have a fair value gap here. It would be nice if actually price comes for this fair value gap here, sweep these highs, and you can see also we have an inversion fair value gap here. So right here we have a balanced price range. So I want to see price come tag this before we see that bearish momentum for EURUSD. So let's look at the daily time frame. On the daily time frame, it's the same thing, guys. So we want to see that move price to take out this high. It would be nice actually if it gets to this point here where we have the balanced price range before we start see that bearish momentum. So guys, EURUSD and GBPUSD are positively correlated. So for GBPUSD, you can do the analysis for yourself. Of course, it's the same thing. You realize we have a weekly key level that we want to see price get to before we see that bearish momentum. Then you move to the daily time frame. It's the same thing. So let's look at yen. Today I'll just go straight to GBP JPY, no need of looking at the yen basket. Okay, so far, if you look at the monthly time frame, you can see last month actually we had price tagged this fair value gap right here, and then so far this month this is what you have, and you can see this month so far price has not yet taken out previous month high, and it has not taken out previous month low. So at this point we consider this an inside month, and you can see we only have 9 days left. Now if this month is not going to close as an inside month, this buy side liquidity previous month high looks like a high probability compared to a previous month low as of now, because you can see we only have 9 days left. So let's look at the weekly time frame for GBP JPY. If you look at the weekly time frame, you can see price actually we had an inversion fair value gap here, and so far this is what we have. So let's look at the daily time frame. If you look at the daily time frame, you can see we had this order block here which got tagged by price on Monday, and it also got tagged on Thursday, and so far this is what we have. And also right now you can see we have this new order block created. So if you're going to get bullish momentum for GBP JPY, I want to see a retracement before we see that bullish momentum, and target is previous month high, if that is if you're not going to close as an inside candle this month. So let's look at gold. You can see last week gold price closed really bearish, and this week I'm anticipating more bearish momentum for gold. So if you look at the daily time frame, you can see so far we have this fair value gap here, and we also have another fair value gap right here. So for us to get that bearish momentum, of course, I'm not going to sell directly at this point. At this point, selling is considered really cheap. You don't want to sell at a discount, and when buying, you always don't want to buy at a premium. So because you're selling, we want to see a retracement before we see that bearish momentum. So either price will use this to push price lower, or we can get a retracement deeper here before we get that bearish momentum. So that's what I'm watching for gold this week. So let's look at NAS 100. If you look at NAS 100 starting with the 3 months time frame, you can see so far draw of liquidity for these past 3 months was actually this fair value gap right here, and you can see finally price has gotten to this fair value gap right here. So let's look at the weekly time frame. If you look at the weekly time frame, you can see so far this is what we have. And it would be nice actually if price gets to these relative equal lows here. Actually, these are equal lows. So I'm looking at this as draw of liquidity for price for NAS 100. So far on the daily time frame, NAS 100, you can see price left behind this order block here. And of course, there's a tiny fair value gap here, but the point is we have all this is the order block. So it would be nice actually if we get a retracement for price to tag this before we see that bearish momentum. So that is all I prepared for this weekly outlook video. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.